We do have a standing date once a month, right? That is the ability. So, but when you lean in, like, why is this person this way? Do they actually not care about me? Are you telling yourself a story about this person without being curious? When Pam got curious with it, I was able to sit down and get curious with myself. Like, well, no, this is what's actually happening, and this is what I'm able to do. And we have been able to keep up that standing date. So when we lean into relationships with curiosity instead of fear, we allow the other person to fix it, right? Like instead of you trying to fix it and resolve it, you allow the other person the opportunity to do better and to show up for you in a way that makes you feel seen and cared and that they feel seen and cared. And that is important inside of community. Good morning, Alvin. The reflection that I offer here is where in your life are you trying to define something that is still becoming, right? We don't need a definition every time we go out and meet someone, every time we go on a date, every time your child does acts in a certain way that is against maybe your rules, your regulations, your confines within your home. We do not need to define it. We do need to become more curious. What is this? What is happening? What is the information that I am receiving here? And it's best to ask, like, hey, not for nothing. But when you constantly cancel plans or whatever, it makes me feel unseen, uncared for. It makes me feel like you don't value my presence. This gives somebody the opportunity to be like, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, my ability, and my capacity. And here is what I'm able to do. That is offering somebody the opportunity to repair. Again, we constantly talk about this here. We are going to mess up. We are going to mess up. We are not going to get everything right. And we are not striving for perfection in community building because perfectionism is one of those 15 pillars of supremacy culture. What we are striving for is healthy communication, true actual connection, and real community building in real time. And that is going to take conversations. That is going to take clarity. And that is going to take curiosity first and foremost leading us. Good morning, Jess. Good morning, Susan. So, of course, I offer my little pause, right? So, pause for a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself, notice where your body tightens around uncertainty. What does that make you feel? Like, oh no, I need to be certain about all of my connections. That's almost impossible, my friends, right? So notice where your body tightens up around the uncertainty. Notice if there's a part of you that wants things to be resolved quickly. Do you want this? I need to fix this now. In the episode with myself and Zon, we talked about that. Not everything is urgent. And I'm famous for putting a pin in it. I tell you guys that all the time. Let's put a pin in it because people are activated. We're questioning. We're operating from fear, from uncertainty, from past traumas, for the ways others have hurt us. And we're just laying that on the people that are coming into our lives and the community that we are trying to build, even inside of activism, right? Like, oh, well, you didn't show up for every single meeting. There's a lot of reasons why people can't show up to every single meeting. There's a lot of reasons why people have to change the way they activate. Right. If you have an activist circle and when it first began and it began on urgency, right? I was talking with a group last week where let's say you were doing emergency mutual aid. I was doing that when the uh, when federal aid was paused for food stamp recipients. I raised $11,000 in 2 weeks and just sent out groceries. That's an emergency. That's urgent. That's the way that somebody could show up. You cannot consistently show up in that way. Now, maybe I think we bring in about 250 a month, I think it is, on feeding the family fund. So I can't disseminate groceries the way I did, but I can continuously fill up the free food pantry that's here so people can access it. If there's an immediate emergency need, maybe I could shoot out $50 or that stuff. That doesn't change the way that you are showing up. It changes your capacity, your ability, what's available. So when we lead with that curiosity, well, why isn't this person doing that? And instead of assuming the worst or navigating from our past traumas and fears, we are able to turn around and see what is actually happening. and make a decision based on discernment from that point and space. Da-da-da. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee. It's good coffee. Talking point two. Control often disguises itself as clarity. We tell ourselves we want clarity, but what we often mean is, I want this to resolve in a way that feels safe. Control tries to speed up the process. It tries to decide what something is before it has had the time to show itself. But when we control relationships, we limit what can become. We close off possibilities before they had a chance to emerge. How does that show up? If I want to have a conversation with you, and my only goal, let me back this up. I remember, I think it was in my communications class. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember this one thing that stuck with me. And clear communication is not about the message that is being sent. It is about the person who received it receiving it accurately. So I can turn around and say something, and I could be as clear as I want to be. I could line this up perfectly. How somebody received that message is whether or not my message landed as it was intended, right? So when you're having these sorts of conversations and you're trying to rush to resolve it, and you do not go into the communication trying to truthfully understand, trying to truthfully listen, and you want an end result, you're going to go in, and this is where conversations become manipulative. This is where conversations become contrived and controlled, because you already have an outcome. You already know. You already know. Like, I already know what it is. So, like, really, I'm just going through the motions of a conversation. So, you're going into the conversation. You're like, I already know that this person doesn't give a damn about me. Well, then, if you know that, why are you even having a conversation? Right? But if you go in and saying, you know what, I feel like this person doesn't care. I feel like this community member is not as committed to activism as I am. I feel like my child doesn't listen to me. I feel like my partner is uninvolved. So many ways that this can be applied, right? I feel like my coworkers, my managers just want to use my labor. And it's not saying that none of these things are true. It is saying, if you go in knowing that, knowing that, if you go in with that idea that that is the end, period, point blank, full stop, and no matter what is said or what you hear, that is the outcome, you are trying to control that outcome. And in doing so, you are blocking the ability to have clear communication, to open up avenues of repair, to open up avenues of true discussion and discovery. Right? Again, we are learning each other in real time. Relationships are unfolding in real time. Life is happening in real time. Supremacy culture sets us up to have these very static relationships. This is how it's supposed to go. Let's take it to dating. We date, we court, we get engaged, we get married, we have children. It's all contrived. It's all worked out. That's not real. That's not real. Parenting, you give birth, you nurse them, daycare, school, college, marriage. It's this script that we are told that we are supposed to follow, but that does not give space to actual humanity, to real life, to things happening. Children are not always born in the best of health. Children do not always have the best of abilities. People come into relationships with trauma, with past hurts, with lack of communication skills, and so many other things. People go into work with a job description, and then their ability to show up for that description shifts because life is dynamic. You are not a static being. And if we are learning and leaning in with curiosity, we are going to turn around and say, okay, you know what? I am feeling all of these things, and those feelings are so real. Those feelings are so valid. So I'm going to go in with an opportunity that things are going to get resolved in some sort of way. What that resolution looks like is going to change. If you're talking about activist spaces, the resolution that I want, right? I do like to go into a conversation and communication with the end goal in mind. The end goal in mind, let's say, like I said, in an activist space, is figuring out what people can actually do from this point on. We got together during this major blow up, and we responded with emergency aid. Okay, what does that look like for longevity? That is what communication